So these aren't the types of videos that normally get a lot of views on my channel. You could definitely help that out by leaving a like or commenting, just anything that can help out with the algorithm, because we are going to be talking a little bit about Ninjago today. Obviously not the focus of my channel, but there are aspects of it I like. And this specifically is focusing on a sort of challenge slash mock thing, I guess. So we're just going to lead right into that. Currently, right now, I think I own literally one Ninjago set, and I'm going to use air quotes, asterisks, whatever, because I'm not even sure that's true. I have the elemental dragon that I went out of my way and bought on Mercari because I live in the US, and thankfully I got it for relatively cheap. For the entire dragon, I got it for under $40 after shipping, after taxes, everything, which is a really fantastic deal. It's a great build all on its own. Not worth it at full price in my opinion, but I was really only interested in the dragon, and as a $40 dragon, it's pretty solid. That said, I wanted to do a little bit of a challenge with some of the other Ninjago dragon sets, because we're in this sort of like Dragons Rising sub-theme thing with Ninjago. Don't ask me what any of that's about, I don't know, but suffice to say, dragons. Okay, cool, I like dragons. We can do something with this, right? So my idea is that I want to try and make 4 dragons total, one small, one medium, one large, one extra large, but I'm working off of the dragons that LEGO has already done. So rather than mocking my own dragons, mostly because I'm not fully there yet with my system skills, I don't know exactly what I want to do, and I don't have a lot of system pieces in general. You saw the drawers back here yesterday. I basically have one of those drawers full of LEGO pieces. That sounds like a lot, but that's just LEGO pieces, not any specific color, not any specific type or anything like that. So actually working out a build is a little bit difficult right now. So instead, what I think I'm going to go ahead and do is actually purchase 4 dragons, well, technically 3 more dragons, all on sale as best I can, of course, and then try to mod them from there. Ninjago, I think, has been doing a pretty good job throughout its lifespan in terms of dragons. It has definitely been hit or miss, but over the past couple of years, I think they've definitely been getting better, been like visually improving. I think it really started back in 2021 with the Fire Dragon set. We'll take a look at some pictures here in a minute, but the Fire Dragon specifically, though it does have its issues and there are some areas of it that feel a little bit underwhelming, undercooked, if you will, at the end of the day, it does something that previous dragons hadn't really taken full account, taken into full effect, if you will. And that is sculpting of the underside. Because this is a dragon that is kind of like meant to both stand and crawl, that chest is going to be kind of first and foremost, right, in the design. And it's very clear that LEGO spent a lot of time sculpting it, because I think other areas of the build do lack, especially in terms of like colors and stuff like that, whereas the base on that is really solid. That said, the 4 dragons that I have chosen for this, let me go ahead and pull them up really quick, all relatively recent dragons. The water dragon for the small version, this is the water Evo dragon specifically, the earth Evo dragon for that medium build, right? Then the heatwave transforming dragon, and of course the elemental dragon. All 4 of these dragons feel like they fit the same kind of scheme, kind of design, while also each looking individually different. And so I want to kind of work off of these as platforms and modify them, see exactly where I can take each of these builds, because I do not think each of them, or any of them for that matter, are perfect out of the box. If you guys saw the video where I talked about the elemental dragon specifically, you know that I actually modified like the ankles on it and how the wings are attached slightly to it, so that the wings can fold back, so that they can be flatter against the body, and so that the ankles can actually move forward and backward, because they can't do that really at all in the official model. They can sway, at least they can move side to side, they can pivot a little bit side to side as well. I kept all that while also allowing it to move forward and backward, and it just lends so much better to the posability of that model, because now it can actually walk on all 4s without feeling like it's doing something unnatural. And it can also stand up and be really tall at the same time. It's a great set. I definitely recommend it if you have the parts to really modify it further. And my mods are fairly simple on that build, because I think overall it's a really solid build. That said, the Water Evo Dragon that you can see up here in the top left corner, hopefully of your screen too, is actually really solid for a $20 dragon. It might be my favorite $20 dragon that we have gotten so far. It is a Evo set, so it has that whole like evolution sub idea thing going on. Here it feels the most appropriate because a lot of the other ones just kind of like lengthen the body, but then it messes around with the proportions. It's not a perfect set by any means, but it's pretty solid, and the design of it looks good as well. You can't really see it here, but the whole underbelly of it is white, so it goes from this like blue to this bright light blue, then to white on the belly, and it's handled in a way that looks very aesthetically pleasing. The Earth Evo Dragon, however, is honestly kind of a mess, in my opinion. I like some ideas that LEGO is going for with that build. The execution, however, I'm not a huge fan of. I think, so that is kind of like a mole dragon, which is really cool. And again, we'll take a look at the mock that I made for this here in a second in studio. That has not arrived yet, so it is in the mail currently. But essentially, I just wanted to keep that smaller form factor, because if you guys are familiar with the Earth Evo Dragon that's shown here, that is it in its fully evolved form. It's very long in a way that doesn't feel appropriate for the creature itself. So I kept that more small mole porcupine bat-like aesthetic from the first evolution, I guess, but still kind of worked around some of the other things that you can see here. We'll take a look at that, as I mentioned here, in just a moment. Lastly, the Heatwave Transforming Dragon, I think is actually pretty decent. The new tail piece, I do not like. It has a giant hole in it for some reason. LEGO has made tail pieces that look similar to this in the past without those holes. It's not necessary for it to have been there. Obviously, LEGO put it there for a specific reason. I don't know if that's for manufacturing purposes or what's the case, but it looks bad. It really compromises the aesthetic of that piece as a tail specifically. The aesthetic, first and foremost, feels like it should be the thing that is focused on for a piece like that, given what it is trying to accomplish. It's not great looking here. So I may replace that with like the older style of tail. We'll see. Once, I don't have that set yet. I have not bought it. I ended up missing out on it a couple days ago for like 18 bucks, which would have been really good. Not for any of the figures, just for the dragon. Again, I'm not worried too much about the figures here, but the Earth Dragon, I will be getting the figures because I just bought it in the box. That's what it was available for. So I was like, all right, cool. I'll grab that. And I think I got it for $22 after shipping, after taxes, whatever the case. So not awful, more than $10 off. I'll take it. With that said, let's go ahead and actually check out the Earth Dragon here in studio. So we're going to hop on over to this really quick, and I'm really happy with how this looks. Overall, it does still keep the gold horns, which I didn't really care for the gold on the color scheme of this one specifically, but I think for the head horns it feels a little bit ornate. I like it in concept here, and I believe as of right now this may only be available in gold and black. Maybe it's in tan as well. I'll have to check because it's been a while since I've looked up this piece specifically to see what other colors are available for it. But I don't mind the gold here specifically. That said, the entire underside of the model, and yes, I know that the head here is brick built. It's not in studio yet. This kind of stuff basically never makes its way to studio, so it's whatever. But the bottom jaw here would be the bottom jaw from the Water Dragon from a couple of years ago, the bigger version of it. And then the head is the head just from the same Earth Evo Dragon. So nothing changes on the upper head. It's just made to look a little bit more similar to what came out of the box. That said, in terms of the color scheme here, I worked with dark bluish gray, black, and orange. And if you're a Bionicle fan, you know that is also the color scheme of Nuparu. Some other sets as well use it. It's a very solid color scheme, and I wanted to make sure that it really worked out here. Black is obviously the first and foremost main color for this set, but I wanted to make sure that I had something going on with that orange, and I really like this sort of like striping thing that I was able to work in here specifically. So I'm pretty happy with how it came out overall. You got this little bit of a curve on the back end here, a little bit more curve into the body with this sort of like shell plate piece. I don't know exactly what this is called. It's a really neat piece. I have some in dark azure, which I have not used yet. And then of course, changing around the shaping of the shoulders here to add a little bit more of that orange as well. Pretty much got rid of any visible light gray with the exception of these ball joint pieces here, which are available in dark tan as well, but I think the light gray works better in this scenario. And of course, they're much more common in light bluish gray as well. I may end up removing this spike too, because it does feel a little bit out of place. There's There's no other spikes back here to really work with that, and I don't mind it being there, but I don't think it adds anything in this position specifically. I kept all of the front spikes, however. These may change orientation here as well, just because they stick out forward and that looks a little bit weird, but suffice to say, in terms of changes, I did work on the articulation a little bit. I won't know until I have this in hand how I like the articulation yet, but at the very least it does have ball joints in all locations, including in the neck as well. It is actually ball jointed this time, because on the original model it's solid. It does not move. It's very annoying, and I don't know why Lego did it. I get that they're trying to make it easier for like kids to put together and stuff, but like kids can clearly work on a ball joint. I don't think it's necessary to do it this way. And I mean, you could probably even squeeze a mixel joint in there and make it work if you had to. Like, the head here is reasonably heavy looking, so maybe a mixel joint would be too not enough. But I definitely think you could make it work. Or of course, even just click hinges of some kind. The other Evo dragons all have a hinged neck with sort of a ratchet type of joint. That could have been used here as well. I don't think it's the greatest option, but it's better than no option, right? That said, though, aesthetically, I think it looks really good, and I'm very happy with how everything has come out. There's no collision here. The head, of course, is going to show collision because, again, these are all just pieces thrown together in studio to make it look roughly how it would look in real life, so I can kind of get a good gauge on the pieces here. And then of course we've got the brown for the seat here instead of the gold, and the nougat color for the little clips holding it in place. I wanted to sort of keep that brown and nougat color scheme for the saddles because that's what's used on the elemental dragon. I was going to say evolutionary dragon. I keep getting it mixed up. You get the point, though. But that's what's used on the elemental dragon color scheme-wise, and I think I like it as a saddle the best. It has a sort of wooden leather type aesthetic to it that I think really fits in with these creatures if you want them to be tamed, so to speak. But obviously the saddle can be easily removed from any of these creatures, and it works out well enough here. I could, of course, add some other things to attach like banners and stuff to these as well, which I think is totally fine. The studs that you could see on that saddle piece are hollow anyway, so like it's totally doable. But I don't really mind the banners. I'll keep them aside, and if I want to add them in the future, sure, that's fine. And of course, as I mentioned, gold can absolutely be added onto these creatures. And the way I look at that right now is that the gold is sort of the taming color, right? So in a way, it's like that's the color of armor or of equipment that has been stacked onto the creature. So where I can do it, I would like to remove the gold if at all possible. I have some bootleg pieces I'm cleaning right now, so I don't know where they're at right this minute, but well, I'll hop back over into here for a second. So you can see on the wings of the water dragon and of the heatwave transforming dragon, specifically this blade piece that's being used here in gold. In a previous video, I talked about a bootleg version of that piece that I have that is actually a kind of a light coral pink that I may actually mess around with further in the future because I actually really like the color, and I think for something like the heatwave dragon it could actually work. It's got a warm enough tone to it that I think it could fit in with the nougat color especially, though I don't have that color on hand, so I don't know that. And I do like the color schemes of all four of these dragons, with probably the earth dragon being my least favorite. It just looks the messiest on that one, but it's not bad by any means. The brown is a good color here. I considered using it. It's just kind of all over the place with the brown specifically, and so I decided to just remove the color entirely from the dragon that I built and replace it with that dark gray, because you can also see it has a golden mouthpiece, that bottom jaw, right? And in its first evolution, there's no gold anywhere else on it, so that jaw feels really out of place there. Since Lego made that jaw in dark gray with the teeth painted white on the larger water dragon, why not use that? You know, that's a pretty simple piece to get my hands on, and it looks good. I think the design of the piece is fine. So that's really everything I wanted to go ahead and go over in this video. Like I said, for the most part, it's a bit of a challenge. I want to keep all of this stuff as easy to do as possible, so I don't want to change around too much. With the smaller sets, I'm willing to change them more just because the overall parts count isn't super high. That one was 247 parts. It said 248 because I have an arm build off to the side. But suffice to say, that's not too out of the realm of the actual parts count from the set itself. It may be more overall because, again, this has changed a lot. But outside of that, just ignoring that for a moment, the set looks good overall, and I like it a lot better. Even with the wings on the original set kind of forced themselves out to the side, as you could see, which looks really weird for an underground creature. So I just attached them to the back of the arms instead so that they go along the side. Just that little change feels so much better because I didn't want to remove the wings entirely. I do think that they serve a purpose and they look good. But to me, I look at it as like, how does a bat get around in like caves and stuff like that, right? And a lot of the time, the bat's wings kind of fold back, right, along the body, if you will. So when it's crawling on all four, those wings are kind of out of the way. They're not scraping up against walls and hitting things too much, right? So it just makes more sense for that to be the case with a build like this as well. Anyway, getting ahead of myself, like I said, that's pretty much it for this video. If you guys did like the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. As I mentioned, these are not the types of videos I normally put out on the channel, so these don't perform quite as well. But if it is something you'd like to help get out there, those likes, those subscriptions, those comments, etc., really help the algorithm. That said, you can also check out Discord, Instagram, or Patreon if you want to support Channel Kids Perks. All that in the description below, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care.